from 13ABC. Conklin and Company with 13ABC Action News anchor Lee Conklin. First with what's happening behind the headlines. And Take 3, our panel of political analysts.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Conklin and Company. Today on the programs, we're going to shift gears a little from the norm, pardon the pun, the cliche, but let's go racing. A big race coming up 1 week from today in the beautiful Irish Hills of Michigan, the Quicken Loans 400 at Michigan International Speedway. But before that happens, really an incredible amount of work that gets the Speedway ready for a weekend filled with action and filled with people. The man overseeing all of it is the president of Michigan International Speedway, Roger Curtis, who made the trip down.
Thanks for having me.
From the Irish Hills on 23, old 223.
Oh, yeah.
You go the speed limit today, Roger.
We did. I always go the speed limit except on the track when I give pace car rides. Then I open it up a little bit.
The fastest track in NASCAR.
We are now.
Right?
After the repave last year, we saw speeds go over 200 miles an hour, and I think we're going to see that again this year.
Yeah, and that's what really the excitement's all about. And we're not going to go totally inside NASCAR, inside baseball here, but Junior, I remember I was out in the park listening to the radio, and Junior wins at Michigan International Speedway last year. Incredible event, really.
Oh, it was huge. All became right with the world. Dale Earnhardt Jr. wins, and Junior Nation erupted, and there it is. Seemingly he can only win at MIS. So right. Maybe we'll see him win again this summer, the Quicken Loans 400, or later in August when they come back. But, you know, what was great is we had the high speeds, which is very sexy. Yeah. You know, 200 miles an hour gets everyone's attention. But the race was great, too. We had really good, high-quality racing, the best two races we've probably had in a long time there.
What makes a great NASCAR race, stock car race?
I think fans want to see a good competition up front. I don't think they always need to see a record number of leaders, but they want to know that there's more than one guy who's going to just run away and hide, that you're going to have 4 or 5 cars. They want to see good pit strategy. They want to see the guys have to work on their car, change it up. And really, and what was great about at MIS because of the speeds is you really had to plan your passing, and you really had to be brave. I mean, to go into a corner at 225 miles an hour and try and dive under someone and hold it, or accelerate out of the corner and pass them. So race fans in the Midwest are typically very, very smart, very, very good race fans, and they knew they saw a good race.
Yeah, and I'm not going to try to fool anybody right here and talk the intricacies of racing. That's why you're here, Roger. But compare MIS to another track that's narrow, that's shorter, where the speeds aren't nearly as fast as what you get at Michigan International Speedway.
Well, I guess Richmond International Raceway, where I used to work. I mean, that's a 3/4 mile short track. Yeah, I was there. I was at Watkins Glen, which is a road course. So I've kind of been at all the different tracks. And then you have a really large track like Daytona, you know, home of our Super Bowl, the Daytona 500, where they have to actually put a restrictor plate on to keep the speeds down. And I love Daytona and Talladega. Those are the only 2 tracks where they run restrictor plates. But those, to me, are kind of artificial races. You're going to intentionally keep them bunched up and in a pack because of that restrictor plate. Here, no restrictor plate.
Let it all hang out.
Let it all hang out, and may the best man or Danica win.
Yeah. And I was going to say the good old boys, but you got to include Danica Patrick now. And she's, what, mid-20s in the race for the chase as far as the standings go?
Yeah.
But she gets so much publicity. Great for the sport?
You know, she is because she's very dynamic, she's very energetic, and in her defense, to come from open wheel racing where the car weighs more than half less than what a stock car does, the IndyCar. Yep, open wheel racing, much lighter, much different braking, much different acceleration. Just going through the turns at a racetrack like MIS, where she has ran in both types of cars, the entry and the exit's completely different. And it takes a lot of these open wheel drivers a long time, and some never get it. Dario Franchitti tried, he left. And you look at the people.
He goes back and he wins Indy 500.
There you go. So that's what he was good at.
Yeah. Sam Hornish.
From
Defiance, you know, has his struggles, but Nationwide Series now. Sam?
Yes, and doing very well.
Yeah.
But you look, it's taken him a block of 3 years, 3.5 years to get to where he's at. Juan Pablo Montoya just now really getting good on the ovals. Really the only guy who can just jump in everything and anything is Tony Stewart. And he seems to be able to pick up on it. But so in defense of Danica, I think she should be really happy in the 20s right now. Her goal right now needs to be to just finish races, laps, just do laps, get used to that car, work with the crew chief, understand what's going on. it'll come to her.
Is it unfair to her that so much is expected of her?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I mean, there's so much pressure placed on her. And I think that the other drivers have done a really good job trying to help insulate her. And then she's such a fierce competitor. She puts so much on herself. No matter if the general public just stopped putting pressure on her, she still would have an immense amount because she still beats herself up, for example, over the Daytona 500. She thought that she could have won that race. Maybe she could have. She'll probably never forgive herself.
Well, we're talking about personalities, and let's go to the other personalities. You mentioned Tony Stewart.
Yeah.
Perhaps no more volatile personality in NASCAR than Tony Stewart, right?
Well, he's calming down a little bit. We're seeing other people pick up the mantle, and you know, all
the mantle of most volatile.
yeah,
right.
You know, there's so much pressure on these guys, and there's not 2 or 3 that can win a race. There's 20 that can win a race. There's 20 that can win a championship, and so there's a lot at stake. And unlike any other sport, our drivers literally get done with their game and microphones get put right in their face. There's no going into the locker room and calming down. When you're racing, and I've just done silly little go-karts, but it is very emotional because you're so focused on winning, you're competitive, and you're focused on hitting your lines, not wrecking someone else.
It could be life or death.
It could be for these guys.
I mean,
at 225, yeah. You get out of a car, you're
Emotions
pretty emotional.
are going, yeah.
Very much so.
All right, Jeff Gordon.
Great guy. Great guy. I mean, he's an icon in our sport, and he's done a lot with us the last few years, and he really gets that he's kind of carrying that, I don't want to say elder statesman, but he's getting up.
Yeah.
You know, he kind of is becoming the elder statesman for NASCAR right now.
How difficult? We see golfers reach a peak in their perhaps early 30s. What about race car drivers? You mentioned Jeff Gordon kind of getting, certainly not toward the end,
right?
But the elder statesman. Well, is there a peak time? We have so many young drivers,
yes,
Roger, on the circuit. So, young man sport?
I don't think so. I think it's a little bit of both because you can come in young with some raw talent, but there's a lot of finesse to this. There's a lot of strategy. I mean, these young guys, a lot of them come out and they just want to go. They want to go for 400 miles and lead every lap, and they burn up their tires.
Never stop for gas?
Oh, yeah. So,
how many times, by the way, do you pit in a 400-mile race if you don't have caution flags?
Oh, gosh, I would say, what, about every maybe 40 laps or
okay.
So
I'm all over the place
every
here.
Every 80. No, that's all right. That's all right. So it shows you the importance, though, that the fact that this is a team sport, and you have to have a very good pit crew, and you have to have chemistry. Everyone talks about baseball, football, basketball needing chemistry. So going back to your original question about the youth and some of the more seasoned veterans, it's the same with crew chiefs. And you have to find that right chemistry. And you look at Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus and the chemistry that they have. I mean, these are Hall of Fame, maybe the best crew chief ever, maybe the best driver ever, certainly in the top 5, in my opinion. But alone, if isolated in a vacuum, I don't know if Chad Knaus and Jimmy Johnson would be as successful as they are.
Jimmy Johnson at the head of the race for the chase at this point.
Yep.
No coincidence.
No coincidence.
Perhaps, right?
Yeah.
Money almost coming up on $5 million this year. Amazing. Well, we're going to come back in just a minute. Plenty more to talk about, not just racing, but the man behind Michigan International Speedway, wearing a lot of hats, right? We'll come back in just a minute. Roger Curtis, MIS, right after this.
The annual